Hello. Um, I figured maybe now is just as good as time as ever to just start on chapter one. Um, because I've been having a lot of, I mentioned in the last video, I've been having lots of really bad nightmares. Um, Last night's nightmare was really fucking bad. Like, there was like an amalgamation or fucking fusion of, my dad's partner, Miss Cicely, from high school being fused with his current wife, my stepmom, and it was like weird because sometimes she'd be Miss Cicely, and then other times I'd hear my stepmom's voice yelling at me from somewhere in the house. And I don't know what I even did in this dream, but it was like the house that my dad had stayed in when I was in high school, when I moved back in with him, and um, it was just weird because like there was a central staircase in the middle, like in the staircase was in the middle of the house basically. It was right there when you walked in. It was kind of like it wasn't really a spiral staircase. Like it had a mezzanine, if that's the right term, in the middle. Like there was one way to go up as soon as you walked in the front door, and then there's like a little the mezzanine area or whatever, and then there's another way up to the mezzanine on the other part. When you walk in, it would be like there's a hallway to your left, and there'd be a bathroom, and then there'd be another set of stairs up to that mezzanine, and then there's the final set of stairs which is up to the second level. Um, but whenever I'm in my dreams, that's usually like a never ending spiral staircase. Sometimes, like, it just like keeps going and going. And sometimes when I go down and I go the wrong way, it's an entirely different part of the house that it shouldn't be. But anyway, so yeah, it was kind of like that. Um, but there was, like, I guess there was just a bunch of stuff that had been thrown out into the common area, like the living room and the basement was like flooding with stuff, and I didn't know why at first immediately, and then it was like my dad's current wife came downstairs yelling at me, telling me to leave or they're calling the cops, which did happen in real life, but it was like way more serious. Um, like that, like in real life, she only threatened to call the cops because she thought that she heard me call her a bitch through the door. Um, but in the dream, it was like I had done something way worse. So I was running away through different parts of the house and different parts. Like it was weird. Like I'd run into the garage, or not the garage, the laundry room, which led into the garage. And it would just randomly be a different part of the day, and suddenly I'd be waiting for her to come home, like she wasn't even in the house at all, and she was coming back from somewhere because I used to have to wait for her to leave the house in order to use the bathroom or eat or do my laundry, which was really hard, especially like I would mostly try and do it at night, and she hated that because she said that I was going to let people into the house at night in the middle of the night when I was doing laundry. But anyway, it was like I went to the laundry room and it would be a different part of the day, but then I'd still hear the sirens coming, and that probably is also because there's constantly sirens in real life around this fucking area since I'm in the center of the city, and it does fuck with my sleep too. Like it doesn't help that I already have insomnia and shit, and then it's like I have to try and set up a bunch of noise machines. Like I have fucking 10-hour airplane jet noise or whatever, fucking wind blowing for 10 hours. I already said 10 hours. Plus I've got my white noise machine slash dome or whatever, DOHM, but it's old, so I think its motor is a little bit tired because it's not as loud as it used to be. And then even that, then it's like that still sometimes feels too weak to drown out everything. And then it's like when the AC comes on, it feels like I have to use whatever time the AC stays on to try and fall asleep. And it's a whole fucking kerfuffle, and it's just stressful. So how did we get to here? How did we get to me being in the center of one of America's most dangerous cities, if not the most dangerous city? Um, Basically, like, on the street and shit. Like, how do I end up in a homeless shelter? And when literally all my other brothers and sisters are in houses, fed and, clothed and whatnot, and have contact with one another except me. Um, I mean, granted, they don't always intercommunicate, but they all, have contact with each other. It's more than I can say for me because I have no contact with any of my siblings, not even on social media, no mutuals. The only person that I have mutuals with are my two half siblings, ironically, who I wasn't even raised around hardly. Like, I was there for most of my youngest half siblings, I'd say infancy, but I left their life when they'd be like I left their life before they even started being able to like talk properly, and then when I came back they still couldn't talk. But anyway, that's beside the point. Sorry. Yeah, I have more communication with my half siblings that I don't feel like I have nearly as long time that I've spent with. Not saying the bond's not as strong, but it's just for the amount of time I've been in their lives, it's strange how I'm closer to them than my blood brother and sister that I literally grew up with and, like, spent, I'd say, maybe a cumulative 15, 14 years of of the first years of my life with. That's enough, like, especially for somebody like I feel like with on the spectrum, um but just enough in general too. Like, I'm sure that's enough even for like a neurotypical person. I can't speak on that because I don't know, but I'm trying to be fair. Um, but anyway, so how did I get here? Um, my earliest childhood memory and or memories is like very murky, but specific. I remember my baptism, like my first ever and only baptism. That was a whole like strange experience in itself. Like, it might be because I've been undiagnosed. Like, again, we're working on this. We're going to see psychological or psychologists and get tested properly. So this is part of the whole mental illness process of like why I think I have what I have. So when I'm saying I think I might be a little schizophrenic, it's said, what's the word? Take it with a grain of salt, maybe is the right phrase. Um, it's speculative diagnosis. Okay, not confirmed, but um, I think I might have schizophrenia because one of my earliest memories is the baptism, and I felt like I had an experience when that happened, and before I had a broader understanding of how mental illness works and whatnot. I was in the fundamentalist church. I was raised in the fundamentalist church, so um, I had an experience when I was baptized and dunked into the water. I felt like I was there for like I would have been like 3 or 4 at the time. My mom said probably 4. I felt like I was there for like not an eternity, but like how like dreams feel like they can last for a long time, and then they're only um no, that's not what I meant. Dreams can feel sometimes like they're okay. I'm sorry. I was trying to say something, but then I realized that it doesn't necessarily always apply. Sometimes dreams can feel like they last long, like forever for me, and then I wake up and it's only been a few hours. And then other times it might be the other way around, where it feels like the dream was like super fast and you weren't even out, and then you wake up and it's like 10 hours later or something. But anyway, in the pool in the baptisms. It's twilight. Like my level of detail apparently is pretty impressive for my mom. When I described it to her, because I was telling her about this and why I think I might be, a little bit schizophrenic, if not, a lot of it schizophrenic. But that the experience of I'm so sorry, I keep fucking beating around the bush. Was in the water. It felt like I was there for a long time. It felt like I was surrounded by like this whitish creamy gold, like just like it was just like a gradient light just like shining all around me. And that could have also been, I'm pretty sure there were tiki torches around the pool, but to me it felt like there was like just like I was bathed in light, and it was so like surreal, and just like felt like it was like I was just there for like so long. And I felt like I heard a voice, but not like, I don't know if it was anything specific. It might have just been like my name or something, but even then it wasn't like my 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 given birth name. It was like a name that I knew was my name, but I couldn't tell you what it was, like it was like a secret name for me or something between me and this presence. And part of me does think that that could be, the Lord speaking to me, maybe from a very early age. And that's some of where maybe the delusion also comes from too, because there's just been some weird stuff that's happened that I can't really explain, like that outside of being either mental illness or perhaps something actually supernatural did happen. But I remember my baptism is one of my earliest memories, and I've always had, like, I'd argue like the whole not Christianity itself per se, but I'd say like just the idea of belief, spiritual belief of all religions, and is like one of my special interests in a way. I just like to learn about all the creation stories from different countries and see how they all have similarities and see how they all differ. And because I was raised in the fundamentalist church, I mostly am very, I have a bias towards Christianity, but it's not like I don't think it's like better than anything. There's lots of really beautiful and interesting aspects and ceremonies that belong to other religions that I almost wish, like, sometimes, like, I'm like, damn, I wish Christians did shit like that. Um, but, yeah, so, um, that was an experience to me. It may or may not, that the baptism may or may not have been like mental illness or an actual spiritual, like, a phenomenon. I don't know. But ever since then, I have always felt like there's been something talking to me since that moment, in a way. Like there's something leading me. And even now I feel like there is, like, not like there's anything, well, yeah, kind of. Um, like not in a creepy way, and this might sound creepy to anybody that's not me, but I do feel like I'm surrounded by a presence, and I always have been. It's been since that night, I want to say, because that's, again, like my earliest memory. That's when I felt like I started being able to have self awareness, maybe. Not full self awareness, because I know that I didn't have that until much later, unfortunately. But like I was aware that I was there for a reason, and I just always kind of felt like something was leading me along, not in a bad way either. I just always felt like led around, like I just had somebody with me. And I had a very lonely upbringing because I was, unfortunately, I think like 4 years behind my older sister and 3 years behind my brother. So they were already in school and everything and had like an established relationship. And I was the odd one out. Like I felt very much, and oftentimes, and there's no other way to describe it. I don't even know why, but I felt like a stranger in my own house. Like I felt like my mom was really the only person that I knew. I was aware of my dad, but it just kind of felt like he would just like appear every now and then because he'd be, fucking sleeping all the time or somewhere else. I don't even know what he did, if he was working around that time or not. I don't remember. Um because I don't really remember seeing him except for like at night and then sometimes I think in the afternoon. Um, but I'd always be by myself while my brother and sister were at school. So I wasn't able to like have that experience with them. Uh, and they always did seem to just talk way more and get along way more. They'd watch me while I played. We had the N64. We were a Nintendo household. We also had a SNES, I think, before the N64, but I don't remember. I did play the SNES, but like it's kind of like a very very vague memory. Like I probably watched my brother and my sister play more than I actually played the SNES, but I did play the N64 because I was somewhat autonomous. I think that that's the right word. By that time. um and I really did. I liked to watch them play. I didn't always like to play myself, but I really enjoyed watching how they played and, seeing how they played with each other. We had a hockey game, and I used to really enjoy just third wheeling. It was funny, their banter with each other, and like they'd always like, they wouldn't break the game because we didn't know how to do that. That would just happen probably by accident on its own. But like they just like screw up the whole match or whatnot, and then like I don't know, they used to do like stupid crap and piss each other off, and then Eric um fuck, oh yeah, my older sister would sometimes unplug. Sorry about that brain fart there. My older sister would sometimes unplug the controller without my brother knowing, so he'd be like trying to get it to work or something, and then he'd be like, the controller's broken, and then he'd actually look down and see that it was like slightly, just slightly ajar, and then he'd get so mad. But yeah, I always wanted, after a while I think I did start wanting to play with them because I wanted to have as much fun as they were having with each other, but it didn't always work out like that. Like it always felt like I was trying really hard to catch up to them, and even now it feels like that. But back then, God, it was almost like it felt really impossible for me to connect with them, and I don't know why, because I know I did weird stuff. Like apparently I would bite them at some point whenever they'd get near mom. Um, but that was probably because like she was the only person I really had a connection with. Uh, they'd they'd watch me when I'd play games by myself. Like I think the either the TV was in my brother's room and we all were allowed to go in and out of there because he had the TV and the game system, or it was in another room. Because I remember it was at one point in two different rooms. Like it had been moved, so it was either in this common area and then it got moved to my brother's room, or it was vice versa. Um, Sorry if I said that wrong too. But yeah, so anyway, I remember though I'd be playing it in my brother's room, I'm pretty sure, because it was a room with a door on it, and they'd just like spy on me, and they'd always say like it was, oh, you could, sorry, because you were so cute and whatnot, but they'd just snicker and laugh at me from the door. And then, when I realized that they were watching me and laughing at me and making fun of me because they'd say that I talked a lot to the game and everything, and I had conversations with Kazooie because I'd be playing Banjo Kazooie a lot, and I loved Kazooie. She was, I don't even know why, but I felt like she and I were best friends, and I would always try and play as her as much as I could whenever I was playing the game. And thankfully, I wasn't very good at playing the game like actually. I just liked to go to the different areas once my brother finished a puzzle piece, a picture, and so he got all the puzzle pieces and shit and finished the picture. I just really like to go to the different areas and use the mumbo jumbo power or explore, especially what is it, the spring one, tick TikTok Woods or something like that. I don't remember the name of it, but that one, I don't know why I was obsessed with that one, because it would change seasons and you could be a bee. That was fucking sick as hell. Uh, but yeah, they would just watch me and they'd never really like. I don't ever remember them wanting to play with me a lot. Um, And, I get it, because, like, I'm super young and maybe the interests don't always line up, but I felt like I tried really hard to try and meet them where they were at, despite me being the youngest, and not really understanding what, I was doing wrong or right. But, I would become like, I felt more like a prop after a while, like not a little sibling, because I just felt so annoying to them. Um, Everything that they'd talk about me doing, like whenever we were older, just sounded more like I was a nuisance and like a little bit of a little monster kind of kid. Because again, like the biting at one point when they would get too close to mom, um, they'd tease me a lot because my reactions to things were funny. But after a while, they'd be like, "You're too sensitive," and it's like, "Oh, I wonder fucking why." Um, but yeah, there's like multiple incidents of me being like used like a fucking dummy or a toy. I don't even know why, but my sister was doing this thing where she was like swinging me around like by the arms, spinning me like I don't even know. Like, I guess maybe I was having fun with her or something, but she was being super, super careless with me as her youngest sibling, and she always acted like a know-it-all at that age too. So her acting like that was a little bit unheard of. Like, she tended to try and act a lot more mature for her age. So I guess during a moment of like carelessness or what something, maybe she was fucking manic. I don't know, undiagnosed, because she's got a lot of weird issues. Um, but she was swinging me around, and I think one of the edges of the bedposts, because it was a bed frame that was made of metal pipes, like welded metal bed frame. But anyway, I don't know if it was supposed to have like little like knobs on the end of the posts or not. I just remember it being like an empty, metal ring, with a hollow pipe down. So it was just like a metal edge exposed. And I don't know how this did not scar, because to this day, there's nothing there. But she was swinging me, and I guess my head was like lolling back from like the force, and it smacked right against the pole, and I'm lucky it didn't fucking take my eye out or anything, but it just like went, and it was like the first serious wound I ever remember getting, and it hurt so fucking bad. And I think that I was like, I don't even remember like a whole lot after when that happened. Like, it just like fucking scared me so bad. I don't remember what happened to her after that either. I don't know if she cried or if she freaked out. I don't know if she even like cared, honestly. So it was that kind of set the stage for things, I feel, moving forward. That was in Tennessee, my first 4 to 5 years of life. Um, I just remember constantly trying to catch up with them, and um, I don't know if I noticed anything bad about my mom and my dad's relationship at the time, but apparently there were some financial issues in the house or around, just when they were living in Tennessee, and I heard it was pretty stressful on everybody. So at some point, at some point, uh, sorry, geez. At some point, I think around the turn of the millennium, either after the millennium or slightly before the millennium, 2000, um, they didn't believe in Y2K. Like, I doubt that they did, because there was never any like doomsday prepping, uh, surprisingly. um, I remember the trip a lot because that was like a huge major part of my life, from Tennessee to California, and I didn't even know that we had relatives there. Like, I was first time finding out about the family lore and everything. Like, oh, we're not from Tennessee. We're not just a bunch of like fucking Hicks and the Appalachians or wherever the fuck it is. Sorry if Tennessee's not anywhere in near Appalachia. My geography is slightly off. But yeah, so I remember the trip. I remember, like, I have a lot of dreams too of road trips and being driven around across like like long, vast roads and deserts and everything, I think, and that's probably a huge part of it. But we like were illegally driving in the back of my mom's, I think it was a Ford Blazer, but it was also, I swear to God, it was a truck because it had a snug top that was removable. But I remember it being called the Blazer. But it was a turquoise Chevy of some sort. Uh, and we would, just lie down. My dad like put a mattress back there, and we'd lie down and get all comfy and stuff. It was interesting. I think sometimes they'd ride in the U-Haul with my dad because he drove a U-Haul, and then I think they towed the Cadillac because we had a gold Cadillac DeVille. The Cadillac was attached to the back of the U-Haul, I think, and then I rode in the turquoise Chevrolet with my mom because I felt more safe with my mom when I was a kid. I don't know. I think I must have seen my dad because there was some shit that had happened to my brother and my sister. Like they're like again, like I said, they're it's not like they're not victims either. My brother said that my dad would pick him up by the collar and shit and yell at him. So I probably witnessed that, and I probably was a little bit scary and anxious around my dad. So I stay with my mom most of the time, but I do think I do remember getting in the U-Haul one night when I couldn't like really sleep and I wanted to see what it was like or whatnot. Um, but yeah, we drove to California, and then while my dad was trying to negotiate finding a house with my grandpa and everything, we stayed with my dad's older or oldest brother. I can't remember if my I think he's not the oldest. He might be the second oldest, but my dad's second oldest sibling, my uncle, and his wife. Um, and I really miss him, my dad's brother, because he was pretty chill. He was pretty funny. He used to call me a dingbat, but in like a playful way, and he'd toss candy at me all the time. And I'd call him a dingbat, and he'd be like, "Well, you're the number one dingbat." And then I'd be like, "Well, you're dingbat number one, like dingbat number one platinum or some shit." Um, but yeah, I would always, I just had being in their house was really surreal. Like, I don't know, like there was just like a whole entire room for my aunt's Winnie the Winnie the Pooh collection, and she liked vintage Winnie the Pooh. And she liked, I think, some modern Winnie the Pooh, but I just remember seeing so much shit in there. It was like walking into an antique mall booth, and it was so eerie too because like the lighting in there was always like super ethereal because she had these long drawn white curtains that were like lace and everything looked super Victorian in front of the window, and it would cast this like really fucking creepy ass glow. It looked like just a haunted ass room, like a liminal fucking space, like genuinely a liminal space, because it was just lined to the walls, and the David, all Winnie the Pooh, different kinds of characters, all different textures and everything, and like the little black beady doll eyes and whatnot. And it was creepy as fuck in there, but for some reason I really liked to go in there. I think when I'd get overstimulated because it was just quiet as fuck. But yeah, when looking back, I'm like that that was way weirder than than I realized. Um, but yeah, I would go into the sacred poo chamber. But then she also had like a super dark hallway that led into a room that I don't even know if they ever used. It was their guest bedroom, but like it was so untouched, and the bed in there was a waterbed, like a big ass waterbed. So sometimes I'd just go in there to like throw shit in the center and watch it ripple because it was just satisfying. Um, which apparently I had a lot of weird quirks like this, like just blatantly growing up, and no one thought to get me fucking tested or examined for like any kind of fucking neurodivergency, not even just autism. Like, why is my kid so fucking weird? Like, they would say shit, people would say shit about it, like, hey, Gideon's doing this and this and this, like, what's up with that? And my mom's told me, like, she just thought that I was a really imaginative kid, but had, a small feeling that, there might be something, unique about me or wrong with me. Uh, to put it in a nicer way, something, different. Um, so, Shit, sorry. So she had that inkling, but she never fucking addressed it because at the time she had her own fucking mental health stigmas. Like, she was ashamed of her own diagnoses and everything, and at the time my dad was making it really hard for her to get any kind of help because, his own, like, he was ashamed of his own fucking mental illness. And God forbid, mom and dad, grandpa, grandma find out about it, and they get embarrassed, and they think it's shameful, because that's the kind of fucking atmosphere my dad grew up with, and everything. But yeah, yeah, I had weird behavior and everything, but I was very much accepted and loved. I feel, by my uncle and aunt. We stayed there for a little bit. I don't even remember seeing my brother and my sister. They had to have been there. Like, they had to have been there with me, but I don't remember ever being with them. And that might also be because, again, like, they were in school at the time, and I don't know if I was yet, I wasn't ready for school yet, so I just never spent any time with them, and it just kept prolong. Like, it would just get longer and longer, and then when they'd get home, I don't think they'd want to spend any time with me because they'd just get out of school, and all they want to do is go out and do whatever they did whenever they're out of school. My brother, I think we still had the N64, so he'd probably play that on one of my uncle's TVs or something. But yeah, I don't remember wherever the hell they'd go or wherever they were. I just remember it felt like I was an only child, and that's what I think is weird. Um, so I don't know how long we were there. Just eventually, my dad managed to get my grandpa. Like, I think from what I remember is my grandpa helped my dad pay for the house that we moved into in what is it, fucking Modesto, California at the time. And California wasn't too bad in the early 2000s. I'm sure there were still some places that might have been getting hit with droughts at the time, but I remember it looking a lot more lush and green and lively back in the day. Um, so, like, it's been like really surreal each time I've had to come back to California and just see it look like, kind of like, get the piss filter from fucking 2009 video game era. Like, that's literally what it looks like kind of to me sometimes. Not in the mountains, but down in the valley it's pretty bad. But yeah, I don't know how long we were at my aunt and uncle's house. But eventually my dad got the house with my grandpa. Um, I think we bought it. Like, I don't remember if I think we just straight up bought the house because they didn't think that they were going to get divorced or anything. And wishful thinking. Um, didn't think they were going to get divorced, so they bought the house in some neighborhood. And I always have dreams in the house. I call it well, I call all the houses we've lived in by the street that they were on. But I don't really know if I want anybody to totally, like, I don't feel like I can be doxxed easily, but I don't know. I don't want to tell you all the I don't want to tell you the house in case you bother the people that live in there. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm getting at. Sorry. But yeah, it was the Z house. We'll call it the Z house. I'll try to keep up with this because we moved into a lot of fucking houses over, like, almost every year, I think, after we left the Z house. But anyway, the Z house was like, we were there, I want to say, for maybe like maybe 6 years, maybe 6 years, barely 5 years, if anything. Um, which is crazy to think about because it felt like it was so much longer. Like, it felt like I was there for so much longer, especially given the amount of, like, very vivid nightmares I have. But that must be because that house was just it became a fucking it literally became a nightmare hoarder drug house, which I'm trying to get to. So we moved into that house, and it was pretty nice. My dad and my mom kept it. I don't ever remember it being gross or nasty. My mom and my dad kept it pretty nice, and my dad was, a retired military dad, so he was a huge fucking asshole about us keeping our rooms clean. So we always had to keep our shit clean too, lest Sergeant fucking uh, Sergeant fucking Dickhead come and, literally fucking treat us like recruits and shit. Make your fucking kids hold the push up position for an indefinite amount of time, or do push ups for an indefinite amount of time, or fucking some other fucking retarded. Sorry, wow. Some other bad shit. Sorry. That I let that one slip. Um, but anyway, I'm trying not to say the R word because it upsets people. I usually use it to refer to myself because I do genuinely feel regarded, but if it comes out when I'm saying stuff like that, I genuinely apologize. I don't mean it that way. Um I genuinely mean moronic. I should say moronic because I do mean moronic in that way. Anyway, yeah, he would make us do like weird physical exertions and everything, and he would also do this thing called like well, uh, I'm sure some people know what this is, but basically it's like, your dad will hold his hands out like this, and you have to put your hands out and hover them over his hands, and basically you have to try and pull your hands away before he slaps you as hard as he can with, his hands on the bottom. And that shit would fuck me up so bad. Like, it gave me so much anxiety. Like, it would hurt if he slapped my hands. Like, sure, it wasn't like he was fucking breaking my bones or giving me hairline fractures or whatnot, but like, why are you fucking playing mind games with your kids like that? And that's like some fucking MK Ultra, like fucking, that's like baby Guantanamo Bay shit, like Guantanamo Bay for fucking 5-year-olds. That's literally it was awful. It was the worst. And he'd do tons of shit like that like made you forced to fucking like basically forced to lock in when you're like not when you're not even wired really to be like that, especially in stressful situations. So you had shit like that going on. Behind the scenes, I heard it was pretty stressful for my mom because she was constantly having, emotional, uh, emotion. What would you call it? Like she just had emotional mood swings. She had a lot of she had a lot and still does have a lot of unaddressed trauma from growing up in a fucking meth addict, meth cooker's house, getting, preyed on by fucking adults and shit that my grandma was too irresponsible to realize that what she was doing and whatnot. And then, an even more unfortunate situation when she ended up with her dad for a bit, my grandpa, and my grandpa remarried literally a bitch named Karen who was the worst Karen, like an actual CPS fucking full on fucking CPS case. Sorry, my speech is really bad. It's late. It's like fuck. What time is it? It's 1:41 in the morning. But yeah, she was horrible to my mom and to the rest of the kids too. Uh, so yeah, my mom had to deal with that physical abuse in the household, and then like I don't think my dad was physically abusive to her, like in a way where he was like beating her, but he would scare her and intimidate her, which is almost just as worse because you're wondering when it's actually gonna fucking happen. Um, like it's like he'd break shit basically. That's scary. Um, and then he'd shut down too. Like he'd either break shit from having an outburst because he doesn't respond well to shit he doesn't understand, and takes it out on everybody else, or he'd fucking he'd break shit or shut down. Like he'd shut down and stew, and then you'd wonder when when he's gonna fucking blow up, and what he's gonna yell about and everything. Um, so I think it was pretty fucking tense for my mom around that time, from like first grade 2000. That wasn't first grade. 2001 I think was first grade. I want to say I noticed like the problems in the house probably around 2002. At least that's when I feel like that's when I earliest remember it. It just, one day late at night, I swear I was in my brother's room and we might have been playing like the GameCube or something, or watching Adult Swim. And yes, we watched Adult Swim without them knowing. We secretly watched it because we had a TV hooked up to cable in my brother's room. It was like a tiny one. Um, but yeah, I just remember I think my mom came in and she had probably just been done crying, and my dad was back in their room, just like, trying to like block it out as he usually does and just like ignore it so he could just go to work the next day. And my mom was like, basically like your father and I are having a lot of issues right now. So I think it was basically like he's going to live separately for a while. Like they weren't going to divorce right away. I think they were going to try and make it work because of the church and shit. And also my grandparents were being really fucking stupid about it. Like they're just like, why can't you make it work? Why can't you just get her back? Why can't you just make her stay? It's like, because she doesn't want to. What the fuck is he supposed to do? Chain her down? Apparently yes. But my dad's not that insane, so he let my mom do what she felt she needed to do, I think, basically, but didn't help himself either because he'd have crazy fucking incidents like the Labor Day incident where he, almost fucking bled out in the fucking hallway or the entryway. Um he had other fucking, incidents that were pretty fucking scary too, like just saying really vulgar shit about our mother that we should not have been privy to, like, and I quote, fucking somebody in Fresno and everything while they're separated. Uh, he hit himself in the head with a frying pan, and then we saw it. We had to see it and how it was bent and everything, and that stuck with me. Like I didn't fully understand how fucking bad that was either. Like I used to tell kids that shit as if it was like something like, wow, my dad could bend a frying pan with his head. Like I get mad thinking about me doing that because I didn't realize how fucked up that was, and I bet any kids that heard that knew that was fucked up probably thought that, like, what the fuck is going on in this kid's house. So it's like I just remember a lot of like in between like the divorce and everything. I remember a lot of like just like hoodlum stuff, like like whenever I just felt like my parents weren't ever even watching me and whatnot. So I just kind of became, I don't know, I felt like a little bit of a delinquent, even though I was only like in second and third and fourth grade. But me and I'd eventually make friends because no one in my house was spending any time with me hardly. Like my brother might when he felt like playing games with me, but for the most part, he preferred to basically play by himself, and he'd get really irritated if I wanted to play with him. Sometimes he'd get irritated if I just wanted to watch him, even though it was the family console and the family TV. And my sister would just ignore us for the internet and shit like all the time, or just be in her room. Or at one point, she even stayed with my dad when they were separated. My dad was staying in an apartment while we were all staying in the house, in the Z house. Um, but yeah, like after a while, they both would start retreating into their own worlds. Like I was always fucking annoying, by the way, throughout most of this, but it became even more so. Like I wasn't just like the cringy youngest sibling or anything. Like after a while, it was genuine. Like get the fuck away from me, or mom, can I do this without Gideon being around? And I get that to a degree, but it became so fucking like it became so hard on me because I really wanted to be with them. Like I saw them as my friends. I saw my brother and my sister as my friends, and I don't even know why, because I don't think I ever was close with them. But I sorry about that lisp. I bit my cheek and there's like there's a sore spot. Um, but I guess it was just one of those situations. Like I thought that like the dismissiveness was normal. Sometimes I'd see some brothers and sisters that would just treat their youngest siblings like shit, like Ed, Ed and Eddie, Ed's brother. That wasn't out of the blue for me. Like that was a normal sibling relationship for me at the time. I was just like, oh, better watch out for his brother. Same with Sarah and Eddie, I think, right? Eddie, no, Ed. Sorry, Eddie's brother. Ed's the dummy. Ed's sister Sarah, though, like, it's like I used to think that maybe they didn't like me because they saw me like Ed, like Sarah, basically. But even then, it's like maybe if I'm like Sarah, I need to tone. Maybe I need to watch my brattiness or something. So I'd try and again, I could try to meet them where they were at, and it's like doing all this as a kid sounds so fucking extra, but I just wanted them to actually want me around, and they couldn't. They It was always the opposite. It was like I was trying too hard, I guess. um and I always just felt like the butt of a joke a lot of the time too. uh I just I was telling a friend this actually, like, I think the other day, about how my sister would just like pull like these really crappy like jokes at my expense, and that was the only time I ever felt like I was like useful to her. One of them being to impress my older cousin Amanda, who I knew that she wanted to like be, she thought she was cool at the time. To impress my older cousin Amanda, she and her and were she and her both had remotes to the TV. I did not know this. I was like probably, I don't know how young I was. But I was a really gullible kid. Um, because I was really easy to get me to believe in shit. Like I was super paranoid about like ghosts and demons and everything too. So, uh, my we were watching the Powerpuff Girls, and her and Amanda, I guess, somehow got it in their heads. Like I don't know when they planned this, like, because they both just like couldn't. They both just very seamlessly went along with it. But we were watching the Powerpuff Girls, and like it was like my fucking dream to get like to be a magical fucking girl, basically, and like go off and be a hero and shit. And my sister and cousin, somehow, I don't really remember exactly what they did, but basically what they did was that they were making it, by using the remotes, they were making it look like they had telekinetic powers and were changing the channel, or like messing with the channel controls or something. And they did some other stuff too that wasn't related to the TV, but most of it had to do with the remote controls to smoke and mirror my ass. And they were, I remember asking like, "How do I do it? How do I do it?" And they're like, "We can't tell you. We're the only ones that can do it," basically. And it really upset me at the time because it made me again feel even more like I just did not belong in my own family. Like, oh, we're a family of psychics now, and I don't have the power or the ability. And I think I figured it out later, but like they fucking like that was funny to them. That was really funny to them. And I guess maybe that could be funny to the right person, but to me, again, it's just like there were always instances like that of them just like being like, a dead name, learn to take a joke, or haha, dead name, I can't believe you believed that, or something like that. And it's always whenever I'd get upset, or like, I don't even know if I'd try and retaliate, like try and like make fun of them back or something, but I would get upset, and I'd get ridiculed for it, I'd get chastised for it. They'd somehow always manage to turn it around on me. Um and I don't know if they just bullshit or not, or if my mom just like saw my bad reaction to it and thought that I was genuinely like being over the top or whatnot. But yeah, it was like that for the longest time, and I felt horribly fucking isolated. Um, and then I thought that that would end by the time that my mom met my stepdad, and he had girls that were around my age, but it would get even worse because I think, and sorry if you see this, younger stepsister, but I think that you might have had a crush on my brother at the time. If you didn't, then that's okay too. Like, it doesn't matter. But to me, I think that it appeared that she had taken a liking to my brother, and what little relationship I did have with my brother, because I considered him my best friend at the time, because he still spent enough time with me at home when he was at home and not over at his friends fucking off, um to like, I thought that we had some kind of bond at least. But as soon as my youngest stepsister arrived, that was gone. I had nothing. um I sometimes could get along with her, but for the first, I'd say like 3 or 4 years, I felt like I was competing with her for my brother's like friendship and attention after a while, and just like attention in general, because I just perceived her as a very needy person at the time, and it did feel to me like, to me it felt like she was taking my mom's attention away from me. And because my dad was like almost out of the picture at this point, he was already like moved out and everything, and kind of living his own life in his apartment, and eventually he'd move out of California. um I didn't feel like I could get close to my stepdad because of his daughters, but also because like like I was also constantly torn with like, I don't want to replace my dad and make my dad feel like he's not enough. um so there was just, and I don't have any issues with my stepsister now either. Like that was just at the time. Like I don't even like, I think she's really fucking cool. Like whenever I do hear about her, like I've always thought she's really cool. Like whenever I got over, my whole like, I guess my replacement syndrome or something. Whenever I got over myself, though, I did think that she was really cool and just like very much herself, and I've always admired that about her. Same with my older stepsister, her older sister. I have a lot of respect for both of them, and I feel they've at least given me the respect of acknowledging my identity. So, um, that's it for chapter one. I'm trying to wrap up. I'll try and start off around the time my mom and my stepdad got together and my dad moved out of California for chapter two. But that's the kind of upbringing that we had. Uh, there were lots of things that were mixed in. Sorry, I'm trying to bring this to an end because I'm already at 50 minutes. Um, there are plenty of other things that are probably mixed in between that. Also, at this time, while my dad is living in an apartment, my mom is living in the Z house with us and is going to AA because she relapsed, I think, on both meth and alcohol, but definitely alcohol at the time. And that wasn't a good situation either because the people at AA were not using it, the way that they should be. I think that's like like a common problem too. Like, I'm not saying for every Alcoholics Anonymous, but like apparently y'all be fucking weird. Like y'all be hooking up and shit in there and whatnot. And that's how my mom used it, I'm pretty sure. Uh no shade towards her now, but at the time it was an issue, and she wasn't doing it in an ethical way. So yeah, there were lots of men who weren't my father coming in and out of my house at the time, and lots of inappropriate sexual things that I was exposed to, um, because of it and everything. And also, I don't know exactly when my mom's mom, my grandma, moved in, but at some point my grandma would move in, and the stuff that she brought with her from the trailer park she was living in had gotten infested with cockroaches, and my mom had told her not to bring her microwaves or any of her appliances into the house when she moved because they could be infested, and she didn't listen. And eventually, the house would get infested with cockroaches, and then ants, and then mice, and even occasionally silverfish. And we also had like 2 or 3 cats at the time, along with a dog. So there was like, one of the cats had a bowel issue. I don't even know how my mom got him because he was a silver Bengal cat, and I guess, well, I do remember. I think he actually was discounted because of his bowel issue, and the person that had bred them didn't want was too lazy to get it treated. And my mom had been working at a vet assistant or a vet tech or something at the time, or a kennel something or other. She was working at a fucking veterinarian clinic. Um, she knew how to basically fix him and medicate him. So we got a really beautiful cat for a reduced price. But for a while, though, he still had that poop issue, and there was just like constantly dried poop everywhere. in the fucking bathrooms. The bathrooms were constantly fucking unusable and just absolutely disgusting and covered in fucking excrement amongst other shit, probably fucking drugs and alcohol, and makeup and whatnot. It was just, it was bad. Like, it was like all that was going on, and my dad knew some things about it, so he'd let us stay over at his apartment a lot of the time, and that's also why I think my sister ended up staying with him for a while at the apartment. Um, but yeah, I'll try and get the part two at some point when I'm feeling able. Talking about this shit is fucking heavy. But it also, it does feel good. Like, I'm happy to like get this shit out here, especially because I feel like there's so many fucking idiots on this platform that are misusing their audience, or I guess their privilege. I don't know what you'd call it, like their influence, their reach, uh, to talk about like just like, it's just like stupid, stupid, unrealistic aspects of like mental health, and they're not they're not like healing journeys either. It's just like, sorry not to name drop, but you know, like I've been watching Amberlyn Reed's fucking clusterfuck of a life, and the recent shit happening with her, and her just constantly fucking deflecting and not, you know, having absolutely zero accountability. It's people like that are giving like a horrible fucking stigma to people with mental illnesses. And then people like fucking Pixie Locks too, who are pretending to have serious, very serious, very, very, very rare, very, very hard, and very long to diagnose um, mental conditions. um, it's just disgusting because you're doing it at this point just to make money. And no, it's not get your bag. You don't get your bag off of the backs of people that actually suffer with that. Um, Suffer with, you know, BPD or DID. Um, so I'm just like, I just like, I would like to put some more, like, I guess, real, like, legitimate shit out here, because I am going to talk about that kind of shit at eventually at some point in a separate video, because it fucking pisses me off. Um, but yeah, I feel like this is important to put out for whatever reason, and it also, even like, yeah, that to mention from the beginning, that little voice that I told you guys about also thinks that I should be doing this. So, and not in like a weird, well, I guess it's weird regardless, but like it's not in like a weird, what am I trying to say, I don't feel like it's in a bad way either, I guess, or like a sinister or nefarious way, at least I hope not. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching this whole thing, if you watch the whole thing. If not, no big deal. But yeah, thanks. I already said thanks. I'm so sorry. I don't ever know how to end these. I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually. Have a good night or good day.